Welcome to the all-new Marvel Roundup, the Southgate Media Group guide to the Marvel Comics of the Week. As always, I am Phil Parrish, and joining me is...
Charlie Esser.
Alright, the bulk of it is me this week, so I will start. It's on my big pile here. I guess I'll start with Astonishing Ant-Man number 8. I know you didn't get it, but you might like this one a little bit, Charlie, because there's limited Scott Lang in this book.
It's not that I dislike Scott Lang. It's just that I like other people better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it basically opens up with the Beatles helping. She's helping Scott. They're gonna form a team, and I guess they're doing it through the Hench app. Because we see Whirlwind sitting on a beach, and he got stood up. I guess he had a blind date from the Plenty of Fish site, and he got stood up.
Just out of curiosity, did he explain where he got the money to hire all these henchmen? Because that was one of the... I browsed this a bit. I was like, well, we'll use the hench app to get our army together. And I'm like, with whose money? I mean, is Morgenstern funding this with her Nazi alchemical robot? Or what's going on with this?
Well, the Beetle puts it on her credit card because Scott says, I told you my name can't be on any of this, or the whole operation is blown. So... I guess it's the Beetle paying for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm surprised that the supervillain app would take credit cards. In all honesty, I'm just... It's like, now it's Visa's problem, I guess. I don't know. You know?
Hey, I guess if you want to be any kind of business, even a supervillain business, you ought to take credit cards now, Charlie. But yeah, so we see like the first recruit is Whirlwind, but he's sitting on the beach because his date stood him up. But meanwhile, he's sitting there in his full battle armor, so yeah, it's no surprise she stood him up. But then he gets the
she might have been into that. That might have been like the selling point, you know? You got to remember, this is the Marvel Universe. People have that thing, you know?
Saw blades are turned on to some women? Okay. But he gets...
There's a whole thing miniseries about...
Skull, what's his name?
Atomic Skull.
Yeah. But he didn't have any. But I'm guessing that's intentional. So people are like actually zooming in on the image, going, "Oh my god, I think there's a doppelganger of Wally. I think that's it." It's like I think it's intentionally so they can just introduce whoever they want. By the way, I love when this happens in crowd scenes. Could some of those people look less interested?
No.
To me, it looks like someone raided the Star Wars prop costume rack. Like,
no.
All right.
I think to me, and I think I said this to Phil. It was like Attack of the Hipster Villains.
Yeah, or they went to the old Enterprise sets. Like, where's all the villain costumes? Just throw stuff together.
So apparently, not a single evil metahuman on Earth 2 is older than 16.
Zoom.
Except for that's.
Here's a thought real quick. Okay, I thought of this the other day when I was contemplating time travel. In the original timeline, it was 5 years forward that the particle accelerator was supposed to explode. And then when Thawne went back, he sped up the process. Mm-hmm. So Earth 2's particle accelerator still exploded at the same time?
Again, we've talked about this a few times. I'm not completely sure. So. Oh my God, it is Jason. I did not if you guys had, like, because he looks so different.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's actually like dressed in like, you know.
Well, that's true. He wasn't in his J outfit.
But other than like that part, and then a few more humorous parts, it was very un-Kevin Smith like.
Oh,
it was good.
I mean, he even said, he's like, I don't want to make this a Kevin Smith episode. He's like, I just want to sit back and watch the Flash guys do the Flash.
But they do pay well.
And Hijack is like, they all got death rays, and the voice is like, the penalty for failure is death, kerpow, or some such madness.
Then Isn't there a bit in there about Count Nefaria has a really good dental plan, though?
Yeah. Then they're like, but a tombstone or a crime master will do you right more often than a kingpin. And they're like, yeah. And the voice is like, yeah. He's like, some of them even have competitive offers. When I was with Count Nefaria, I even received dental paid for my Invisalign. Then they're telling him to watch for territory, and he's like, what? Wait, villains have turfs? And they're like, no, it's mostly free for all. And they're like, just watch your superhero territory, because they're like, stick to Midtown if you go to New York, because they're like, because getting webbed up is always better than a concussion. They're like, They're like, pretend Spider-Man's jokes are funny, he'll go easy on you. They're like, but if you venture a bit west, avoid Hell's Kitchen. They're like, that's Daredevil, and that man has some genuine anger issues. Or you could go north, towards Harlem. Luke Cage is not so bad. Met his wife once, seems nice. And of course, they're like, of course, if you see the Punisher, just run. Whatever you're doing, just drop it and run.
This does sound like a good issue.
Oh yeah. Because like I said, it's mostly this villain stuff. But then they're telling him to like do his taxes, and he's like, taxes on the stuff we steal, and they're like, yeah. They're like, you don't want to mess with that. The only thing scarier than the Punisher, the IRS. They're telling him to get an accountant, and then the magician wins the card game, so they think he's cheating them, and they're about to beat him up, and the Beetle shows up, and she's like, if you kill him, none of you are going to get a job, the deal's off, and then she's telling the magician, she's like, yeah, their whole plan was to take some of your money anyway, because they were going to say, you know, all the advice they gave you, they were going to take a cut for it and stuff. Oh, hey, look, Steve, I wonder if that's Steve Rogers' press conference in the TV in the bar there. But they're asking the
That's
Beetle.
always cute.
Yeah, but they're asking the Beetle, did you hire us? And Scott's standing on her shoulder, and he enlarges. He says, no, I am. And then the villains are about to attack him, and I guess they think it's a trap. Till the Beetle zaps Whirlwind, and she says, you all are costing me money. And he's like, and Scott's like, yeah, this isn't a trap. He's like, I'm really trying to offer you morons a job. And they're like, yeah, a job? Then the issue ends at Cross Technological, where Cassie's breaking in, and she's talking to the power broker, like over their communicator. And she's she's putting a thumb drive into one of the servers when she hears a voice behind her who says, "Who do we have here?" And of course, it's Cross in his pink body or purple body.
That's how you know he's magical.
Yep. So that's how the issue ends, with her surrounded. But yeah, it was a good book. I give it a thumbs up. Like I said, I think you would have enjoyed it just because there was limited Scott.
Yeah, well, I got enough books this week, and I've got a big haul next week. So you know.
Oh yeah, I
choices,
understand.
Man.
Oh yeah. All right. Then I will go to Power Man and Iron Fist number 4. It starts off. We see that the prologue is the story of Jenny Royce, and it shows how she was basically she managed the day-to-day operations of Heroes for Hire until they went out of business. And then she met her boyfriend, who is the crime buster, but then he was all abusive to her, and I wonder what story was. I wonder if they printed the story somewhere, because it says something. Even though there was unusual circumstances, like she was possessed by something, she killed the abusive boyfriend, but she went to jail, and that's where she met Mariah Dillard, aka Black Mariah, and she helped Mariah get her GED, and Mariah helped her adjust to prison life, and then they were making plans about what revenge they would take when they got out of jail.
So basically, you know. Luke Cage couldn't have given them Jen Walters' phone number.
No, I don't know. But then they flash to the present, and Jenny's all messed up because of that Super Soul Stone necklace thing. So she's all
Super Soul.
But she's all it looks like all demoned out or something. So she starts attacking them, and Black Mariah's like, "This is the last time I ever listened to Necra Sinclair about anything." So she's attacking Power Man and Iron Fist, and Tombstone is there too because he wanted the Super Soul Stone back. But Jenny whips a car at Tombstone, but Luke comes over and basically totals it before it can hit Tombstone. And then Luke's telling Iron Fist to get Tombstone and his 2 lackeys out of there because Luke says he'll slow Jenny down. But then there's another flashback to prison, and it shows their cellmates telling Mariah and Jenny about the Super Soul Stone. Back to the present. Luke's still fighting Jenny, but she surprises him. She like whips out like a chunk of pavement or something at him until Danny comes back and shatters it with his iron fist. And that's when Luke picks up Danny like by the back, and you know what's coming, right? Danny says, "You sure you know what you're doing?" And Luke says, "Of course I'm sure. Wolverine taught me this move when we were in the Avengers."
Oh yes. Iron Fist is good as adamantium claws.
Yep, we got 2 Iron Fists, and he goes, "Get ready for the fist ball special." But really doesn't slow Jenny down. But Mariah's saying she wants her friend back. But the fight's going on, and basically they're like, Luke says something about the team, and Danny's like, "Oh, we did reform the team, huh?" And they were talking about what was it, Senor Magico told them before about the only power that could overpower the Super Soul Stone. So basically, I guess they basically try to use like, I'm gonna say like love and compassion to like overpower the magic,
mm-hmm.
and it eventually leaves. So basically the cops come and mop up, and Luke calls Jessica to tell her everything's all right. But then Luke and Danny take the Super Soul Stone back to Senor Magico. And
Why do I
Danny's
get
like,
the feeling that'll end badly?
yeah, Danny even says to Senor Magico, he's like, "Are you sure you have a safe place to keep this?" And Senor Magico goes, "Man, you and that quack Doctor Strange didn't even know this thing existed before now." Because Senor Magico says, "I got a storage unit on the astral plane that's guarded by hellspawn pit bulls. Ain't no place safer." And then like the issue ends ending with like Senor Magico saying, he goes, "Now tell me, what's the deal? You two back together?" And they're just standing there, and Luke goes, "Sure." And Danny's like, "Yes!" And the very last panel, it's Danny says, "You should consider some kind of costume." And Luke's like, "No costume." And Danny's like, "But Power Man needs a costume." And Luke's like, "I'm already regretting this."
Bring back the tiara, man.
No, bro. Yes. I thought some of the previous issues were slow, but I like this one. It's one of my favorite ones so far. This one gets a thumbs up from me.
Sweet.
No. I'll do one more, and then it'll be your turn. Spider-Man number 4. It opens up. Miles is having lunch at school with Gank, and they're talking about the new celebrity who's at school now, Gold Balls. Yeah. So Gank wants to go over and talk to him, but he doesn't want to go by himself, and he's begging Miles to go with him, and Miles is like, "Why? Why do you need me?" And he's like, "Because he's one of you." And Miles is like, "One of," Gank's like, "You're one of them," and Miles is like, "One of them?" He's like, "A superhero, you know." He's like, "Come on," and Miles is like, "There's no secret handshake," and Gank's like, "Dude, you're an Avenger," and
with a secret identity, Gank. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. He's like, I can't just go up and say, "Hi, I'm Spider-Man the Avenger," and he's like, Gank's like, "I can't believe you don't get this," and Miles is like, "Dude, he poops out gold balls," and Gank's like whispering, he's like, "See, this is because you've always been skinny." And Miles is like, "What?" And Gank's like, "You don't understand." And he's like, Miles is like, "Skinny? What are you talking about?" And Gank's like, "Yeah, you don't understand what it's like to be bigger," and Miles is like, "Oh yeah?" He's like, "Try walking into a Dwayne Reed and have an itchy security guard just follow you around just because." He's like, "When I was 9 years old, I saw an old woman cross the street just to avoid walking by me. 9 years old." And Gank's like, "Okay, so you're black. Big whoop." And Miles is like, "And Hispanic."
Yes. Yeah,
and
Gank's Asian,
Yeah, and Gank's all like, "We live in New York." He's like, "No one cares what color you are anymore." And Miles is like, "And there's no chubby people in the 5 boroughs?" And
no superheroes though, man.
Yeah, so they're getting into, they're really getting into the conversation because like Gang's like, it's better to be skinny and black in America than chubby and Asian in America. And Miles is like, did those words unironically just come out of your face? So they're going back and forth until they both get covered in spaghetti because one of Goldball's balls comes flying over and slams into Gang's spaghetti. And so Goldballs comes over and he's apologizing, and Gang's telling him what a huge fan he is, and he's introducing him to Miles, and he says, you guys have a lot in common, and Goldballs is like, yeah, how so? And Gang's like, I don't know, just a general kind of vibe, and Goldballs is like, are you a mutant? Miles is like, no.
Yeah.
Gang's like, no, not that there's anything wrong with that, I mean. And then Gang turns to Miles and he goes, I honestly think you can tell him. And Miles is like, Gang. And he's like, I really think you can. And he's going on, and Goldballs is like, oh, so you are a mutant? And Gang's like, no, he's not. And Goldballs is like, Inhuman? And Miles is like, no. He's like, and frankly, he's just joking. And Gang just blurts out, he's Spider-Man.
Oh, Gang, not cool. Not
yeah,
cool
I know.
at all.
And Miles is just trying to go, he's joking. And he's like, tell him you're joking. And Goldballs is like, are you guys messing with me? And Gang's like, I would never mess with you. And so Goldballs is like, wait, which Spider-Man are you supposed to be? And Gang's like, the good one, black costume. And then Goldballs is like, seriously? And they're like, seriously? And Gang's like, I think you two would be like good for each other. And Miles is all mad, and Gang's like, he's like, first of all, you told Miss Marvel, and you don't even know her. He's like, I do know her. We've been in life and death situations together. And Goldballs is like, whoa, this is real. And like Gang's going on. He's like, come on. He's like, you were totally head over heels in love with her, and you were even trying to get her all involved with you, so you told her. And Miles is like, you're just...
Oh, hello.
And Miles is like, you're just digging and digging. And then the interesting thing, Gang says, you've been a total hot mess for like the last 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
And Gang's like telling him you need to get the balance back. He's like, you don't listen to me or anyone anymore. He's like, you need some friends you can relate to. And Miles just like takes off, and so Goldballs and Gang are talking, and Goldballs is like, are you guys a couple? And Gang's like, nope, but if we were, we wouldn't be anymore. And Goldballs is like, you guys act like a couple, and Gang's like, you're not the first person to say that. And then Gang just asks him to room with them, and Goldballs is like, absolutely. But I guess Miles put on his costume, and he's swinging away, and he's like, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna murder him dead. He's like, what's he doing? And he's like, that's like a blood oath. He just bailed on it and tossed it in the garbage so he can impress Goldballs. He's like, I've never been this mad at anyone about anything. He's like, he must be mad at me to pull something like this. So he's swinging through the city, and then his spider sense goes off, and he's like, what? And then all of a sudden, there's like 4 missiles coming at him. And he's like, what do I do? What do I do? So he tries to swing up away from the buildings, so, get him away from the city. He goes into his camouflage mode, thinking that'll trick the missiles, but they keep coming at him. So he's like, heat-seeking missiles in the middle of the city? He's like, who the hell shot heat-seeking missiles at me in the middle of the city? So one hits like the top corner of a building. Then he's swinging past Parker Industries. The Parker Industries sign takes another hit. And then
I was actually thinking about that when I was looking at that. It's like, really? Missiles?
Well, yeah, but 1 or 2 go off near him and like knock him down to the street where, he smacks off a bus and hits the street, and looks like there's a little bit of blood, so he's somewhat hurt.
One imagines.
And the crowd's like, is he dead? Should we call someone? And then there's all this gunfire, and the last panel, guess who shot missiles at him, Charlie? Did you see?
Yeah, it was Hammerhead and Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat.
Oh, yeah, it's Hammerhead and his guys, and he says, well, that worked. Let's call the Black Cat dame and tell her to open her checkbook.
Oh, she wasn't in that scene? Oh, I thought she was. Okay, my bad. Yeah, but I knew it was Hammerhead.
Yep. But,
Hammerhead.
It was pretty good. Even though most of the issue was that conversation, but it was still pretty good. I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah. No, yeah, it looked interesting. Yeah. Adamantium Skull. Hammerhead. Mm-hmm. I'll go with it. Okay, and that gives me to my first book on my own. Squadron Supreme, number 7. Nighthawk versus Nighthawk. Bum, bum, bum. So we open up our story where we last left it, which was Dr. Spectrum in an underwater city with Black Bolt and Toro, who is apparently now an Inhuman with flame powers. Sure, why not? From the 1940s, they have a conversation. Toro's kind of upset about the murder of Submariner because he's like, hey, that was my buddy from World War II. I'm older than I look. Anyway, a little bit of a fight breaks out. Black Bolt stops it because now we've got to fight all the aliens who are called the Myriad, because there are all these myriad races of aliens that are sort of teaming together because they've all been left on Earth. Cut to Marcus Milton stopping at Fallon, Nevada, talking to a waitress with an arm tattoo. They're talking about the coffee. She says, yeah, I got spoiled for coffee in Seattle. I'd love to have some Sumatra. And he says, oh, I got some Sumatra in my truck. And of course he flies to Sumatra and picks and roasts some beans for her and brings them back. Because, he wants to impress a diner waitress, because that's what Marcus Milton does. Sees a little kid at the end of the counter who, just looks a heck of a lot like Clark Kent, but will go along with it. Says hi to the kid, because, Marcus is trying to find himself. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, sorry, not Chicago, in Manhattan, says there's probably a metaphor somewhere in all of this. Yeah, just can't quite think what it is. Too busy thinking, stalling, while I gauge the strength of the man in front of me, the Nighthawk of this world, prior to me coming here. Kyle Richmond, although here he goes by what was it? Raymond Kane. Basically says, I took the name Raymond Kane when I came here because it would have been too suspicious. A new Nighthawk and a new Kyle Richmond showing up at the same time out of nowhere. And basically he's being all Batman-y, sort of judging Nighthawk. Can he defeat him? And then he kicks Nighthawk out. Nighthawk, of course, has wings, so he flies back up. And then out jumps other Nighthawk from the other world to do battle. And he says, and now the metaphor strikes me. Then it comes to me, the metaphor in the back of my mind, how a hawk will always fight to defend its nest, especially from another hawk. Dun, dun, dun. Next episode, we all, including Power Princess for some reason, at least on the cover, are all going to see Medusa for some reason. So, I like the Squadron Supreme. I like the book. It's a lot of fun. Big thumbs up. I like 7. I'll definitely read 8. And I can't wait to see how Kane Richmond and Kyle, or what was it? Raymond Kane and Kyle Richmond solve their differences. Nighthawk versus Nighthawk. I know that new Nighthawk is probably going to defeat Kyle Richmond. Although this may explain why the other one moved to Chicago. Just stay out of Manhattan, Raymond Kane. Okay, and that was my one book all by myself.
All right, well then I guess it's my turn again.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Did you have any questions about the book? I don't know.
No, it sounds interesting. Like you, I wish I had more money. I mean, I'd be picking up all the Squadron Supreme stuff if I had.
Yeah. Well, I am certainly interested in the new Nighthawk book, which I think comes out next week. But next week it's a 6-book week for me. Actually, I think 7th book with the new Captain America. So I'm like, ugh. Plus apparently DC's got some new stuff coming out. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. I would if there was one Squadron Supreme book, I would get it. It's Nighthawk. But again, I mean, I have a bigger week. I think next week than I have this week. I mean, DC, probably more DC, but
yeah, I don't know how you do two books, 2 packs of books. Man. I sure hope your son studies hard because I think he's going to need a scholarship.
Or let's just sell all my books.
Yeah, well, there you go.
All right. All right. Go to All New Wolverine number 8. The Road to Civil War 2. The story is called. It's the first part of the story called The Box because the first scene, Charlie, it's on the. There's 2 ships 100 miles off the coast of New Jersey.
Jersey!
No! And the woman, Professor Holt, she's handing over like a big, it almost looks like a small trunk, but it's like a big box she's handing over to some masked men. All she says is what I promised, chaos and destruction. And the trade's about to go down until a shield squad swoops in and they take her in the box, but Professor Holt says that's not even what's about to happen. She opens the box.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
They're like, what's that smell? Then it's like, oh my god, what?
What?
But they don't show yet. They go to, I'm guessing, maybe Central Parks. It's in New York. Laura and her clone Gabby. I guess Squirrel Girl must have left that Wolverine because they're walking the Wolverine through the park.
Yeah, well, that's their pet Wolverine. Why they can't talk to Wolverine, Squirrel Girl doesn't understand. It's like, take a few minutes and learn his language.
And
You'll thank him for it.
I guess Gabby named the Wolverine Jonathan. But Laura's telling Gabby, she's talking about sending her to school, and Gabby's like, I'm very educated. She's like, it's amazing how much education they pump into you when you grow up in a cell. And Laura's like, I remember. She's like, and Laura's like, okay, you don't need school, but you do need to experience things you've missed out on. And Gabby's like, such as, and Laura's like, you've never eaten 25 with chicken. And then she pulls out her phone and says, hi, I'd like to order 2 servings of 25 with chicken. And Gabby says, what's 25 with chicken? And Laura says, I have no idea what it is. I don't think I'm supposed to know. All I know is it has all the flavor of 25.
Well, for X-23, that would be a perfect meal.
Yeah. So then they're in the apartment, and Laura's cell phone goes off, and Gabby's like, who's Maria Hill? And Laura's like, Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., don't answer it. And the phone seems to answer itself. And then Gabby's like, it switched to speaker. And Laura's like, can she do that? And like, Maria Hill's like, yes, I can do that. Hello, Wolverine. I want to talk to you about a situation.
So this is why you should never buy a Stark phone.
But so Laura says she's not interested, but Maria Hill's like, I thought you'd say that, but then there's a knock at the door. Laura pops her claws, but it's just a delivery guy with their 25s. And I guess Maria Hill already paid for the food.
That was nice of her.
Yeah, Maria Hill's like, we need to talk. You'll understand when we do, but we can't talk over the phone. It's not secure. And then she's like, well, where? And she's like, come out on the belt. Come out on the fire escape. And she's like, you're outside. And Maria Hill's like, kind of. And there's like a helicarrier just hovering over the building.
Really? A helicarrier in the middle of New York City when you could have just taken a Quinjet?
It's Maria Hill. But they're showing her...
Woman has no middle settings.
No. But she's showing them the box, and they're like, what is it? And Maria Hill's like, we're not sure. Only that it contains some kind of weapon, and it was trying to be sold. We lost 7 S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to retrieve it. So she's like, don't your agents have trackers in their suits? And Maria Hill's like, they have trackers inside their bodies that are almost indestructible. And she's like, so for those trackers to go dark, it's something bad.
Wait,
like,
she means she actually physically lost the agents? I thought she just meant they were dead.
That's what I thought at first too when I was reading it. But yeah, she says she doesn't even know where they're at. So, and their only clue is there's a scent from the box because in the beginning the agents were mentioning about a scent. Laura said it's something faint, something familiar, but not. And Maria Hill's like, that's what he said, and she's like, who? And she's like, sorry, that's the other reason I contacted you. Someone was assisting. But he vanished too. And she says, who vanished? And Maria Hill says, come here. And then on the screen, it's Old Man Logan.
Hey.
And Gabby's like, isn't that? And Laura's like, no, he's from another dimension or the future or both. He's not Logan. And
Well,
Mariel's like,
technically he is. He's just from another dimension or time or the future or
Yeah, I
both.
know.
You know, it is still him. It's just
well, Maria Hill says, for all intents and purposes, and Laura's like, I don't know what he is, but he's not the man I knew. And Maria Hill says, he was tracking the scent, when the attack occurred. He said it was familiar, but not, just like she did. He was in a boat, and Laura says, where did he disappear? And, Maria Hill says, he specifically told us not to track him. And Laura says, which you would have ignored. Where did he go missing? And so they take him to where they disappeared. It says New York City Upper Bay. And Maria Hill's like, they lost the old man's signal here. And then there's, Maria Hill, she's talking. Guess who she has analyzing the box, Charlie?
Leonard Sampson?
Fitz.
Oh, good old Leo. Yes. Well, he is in the Marvel Universe now. And he is the best at what he does. Although what he does is science-y.
And since they have no other clues, Charlie, they decided to open the box remotely.
Okay. So what's in the box?
Well, even young Gabby said that's a terrible idea, and Maria Hill's like, it's okay. The room we're opening it in was designed to hold the Hulk.
Famous last words.
They open the box. There's something green in there. They say it appears to be a liquid. It's quite pungent, but there's nothing that appears volatile. Because Gabby's like, that's anticlimactic. I mean, I guess that's the thing about not knowing what's in a box when it could be anything. It's amazing, but once you know, it's Schrodinger's possible disappointment. And Laura's like, that's scent. She's like, get us into the air. She's like, familiar but different. The liquid isn't the weapon. It's the scent and what it attracts. And Maria Hill's like, what does it attract? Roar! And what does it attract, Charlie? In a big 2-page spread?
A Hulk of some sort?
No, something that can take a big chunk out of the helicarrier. Fin Fang Foom.
Good old Finny.
No. So he's attacking the helicarrier.
Is he wearing his purple shorts?
Let me see.
He's a very modest dragon, you know.
It's hard to tell because he's popping out of the water and the helicarrier's in the way. Yeah, you really don't see his lower half.
Oh.
So Maria Hill's like, what's happening? And Laura's like, it's a synthesized pheromone. And Gabby's like, a pheromone? And Laura's like, yes. And she goes, a Fin Fang pheromone? Maria Hill's calling her people, saying, I want the box closed. They moved off the helicarrier immediately. And Gabby's like, so this is like when a giant rampaging lizard and a flying aircraft carrier love each other very much.
So wait, so the room could hold a Hulk, but it wasn't airtight?
I don't know. And then Laura throws on her mask and she says, Director Hill, look after Gabby. I might not get another chance at this. And Maria Hill's shouting, Wolverine, where are you going? And she goes, I know where the old man is. I'm going to get him, as she leaps into Fin Fang Foom's mouth.
Oh, yeah, in the belly of the whale.
Yep, so that's how the issue ends.
I'm going to build a little fire, and it's going to make him sneeze.
Oh, my. But speaking of Old Man Logan, Old Man Logan number 6 was out this week.
Yay, Old Man Logan.
Yeah,
speaking of books that if I had like money I would buy.
Yeah. Opens up. He's still in Killhorn Falls, Northwest Territories. Basically, he wakes up in the morning and, what's her name?
His redheaded future wife, who's now like 12.
Yeah, her and her mom come over. Their dog's missing, and she doesn't want to go to school until she finds her dog. And Logan's like, I'll find the dog. You go to school. And she's like, okay. And he's like, it takes me all of 5 minutes to get the dog sent. So he's walking through town tracking the dog. I guess he likes the solitude here because he's like 3 months out of the year. There's an ice road that leads south out of here. The rest of the time, the road is out, and the only way in or out's by air or sea. he likes the place. Oh, it's Maureen, yeah, his future wife, yeah.
Does he wind up macking on his future wife's mom?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Yeah.
He said he said he's just here to make sure nothing bad happens to her. But he finds the dog, it's dead, something attacked it.
Wendigos.
He's like, well, he said it's a clean cut, sharp blade, which means someone's got to pay. But after the smell of blood, he smells something else. Machine oil, gasoline. He's like, that's when I know. I just know. I made a terrible mistake coming here. I brought something bad with me. And then you see the helicopter. A lot of the town people are getting attacked. There's an explosion because someone got off a shot. It's Bonebreaker of the Reavers.
Oh, the Reavers.
And he sees him, and he's like, "It is you. I had my doubts." He's like, "But what the hell happened to you, Wolverine? How'd you get so old?"
Well, the 90s were a long time ago.
No! But I guess he hasn't said
Reavers.
anything. Yeah, Bonebreaker's like, "Silent treatment, huh?" And Woman Logan's like, "Got nothing to say to you. Won't matter anyway. In a few seconds, you'll be dead." So he comes at him. He's cutting up some of his Gatling guns with his claws, but he hits him with a shot of something because Old Man Logan goes down. Then he runs over Logan's legs with his tank treads.
Man, the Reavers are just weirdly designed characters.
But the thing about running over Wolverine, because then he could just he digs up through the treads and everything and basically cuts Bonebreaker off from it. He says, "You know the best thing about having knives in your fists?" And he says, "This," and he puts them through Bonebreaker's throat.
Oh.
And then I guess the sheriff shows up, tells him to freeze, and he's like, I'm here to stop them and all this, and he's telling him, "You have a deputy," and he's like, he's dead. He's like, get everyone and get him to the quarry. It's the most defensible spot in town. Just get everyone there and lock yourselves in. He's like, "I'll take care of the rest." And eventually, he makes it to the quarry too, and he sees Maureen's mother, but she's like, Maureen and the other children are still in the school in the basement, so Logan tells him to stay, and he's gonna go get the kids. I guess that's another Reaver I don't recognize is about to get the kids when Logan shows up, and I guess they really don't show much, but later they show he cuts his head off, so he's telling Maureen to lead, make sure they take charge of the kids, make sure they hold hands. He's leading them out of there.
So he takes Maureen with him? Oh, no, Maureen's the daughter. That's right.
Yeah.
Or the wife.
Yeah. So he's leading her and the kids out until someone, I don't know if this is another Reaver. It's someone with like a green hood over their head, and all you see is like one green shining light. So grabs one of the kids and says, "Give yourself up, or everyone in this town dies."
Oh no!
To be continued, but another good one. It's a thumbs up.
Sounds good.
I think I'm the last one on my own. Yes.
Yes.
Thank goodness. International Iron Man number 3.
Yes. Where he finds out that MODOK is his real father.
No, I wish they would tell us who it is already.
It's only issue 3. It's like, it's like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah, be like, "Oh, by the way, your dad was MODOK, just say no." Okay, good to know. Thank you. Huh.
But it actually opens up in the present in Bulgaria, where Tony's fighting the Mandroid armors, and the hull's been breached. Friday's telling him to take evasive action. He's telling her pop the armor, and she keeps saying, "No, you programmed me to keep you alive. I'll call the Avengers." And he's like, "Pop the armor," and so she does, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Tony Stark, and you are." But then they flash back to 20 years ago to the Stark mansion. Tony's recuperating from the terrorist attack, and his dad's basically telling me he's sorry, but he's not wrong. That what's her face is he says honey pot again, and her family probably set up the whole terrorist attack so they could get close to Tony and close to the Stark family. And basically, well, Howard's telling him, you fell for a honeypot, you won't do it again, and I won't tell Mom.
Actually, you will a couple years from now.
Oh, yeah.
Little Natasha Romanoff.
But, so, back to the present, he's taking the armor off, because, I guess the mandroids want the armor, and he's like, take it, it's yours, and they're like, it's a trick, and, the one wants to kill him, but they're like, no, she said not to, and, one of the ones like, how do we know this armor of yours isn't rigged to blow? And he's like, because I'm standing right here, and I would never kill me, I'm a really huge fan of mine. So the ones, like, slaps him with the armor, but, they take the armor, and, the one's like, why'd you give up the armor? And he's like, I've got others. And, so they're like, yeah, so you really have history with the boss? And he's like, oh, yeah. And once again, we get the flashback. Howard Stark's asking Maria where Tony is, and she's like, he's not here. But, then at Cambridge, we showed that, he's back, and he's with, what is her name? Cassandra.
Cassandra? Yeah.
Yeah. She had all her bodyguards around her, but he snuck into her bathroom with a cloaking device. So they're talking, and basically, and she's like, "How did you get back here?" And he's like, basically, he had to like stow away on chips and stuff, and then stay off the grid, stay away from his dad. And they're talking about running away together. And he's like, basically, he's telling her, you're in a prison, come with me. And then back in the present, you see her go, no. And the guys in the mandroid armor are like, what? And she's like, you brought his armor here? And they're like, you told us to bring his armor. And she's like, not here.
She
like,
really needed to be more specific then. Okay,
yeah,
no.
I know.
It's like, no, you don't just bring back his armor. It's like, where were we supposed to take it? Because you said bring back his armor. It's like, you're not a good boss. You don't give proper direction. You need to be encouraging and direct in your instructions.
Yes. But she's like,
that's why you're... No, go ahead.
She's like, this is the best personal weapon system in the world. He gave it to you so he could track you with it. And they're like, there's no signal emanating from it. She's like, is it broadcasting anything? No, man, we're not stupid. If it was emanating any kind of energy source or frequency, we would have destroyed it. She's like, no, get it out of here. Take it to the warehouse up north. They're like, yeah. And they're like, we beat him when we got the armor. And she's like, uh-huh. And she's like, this is how it happens. She goes, I'm guessing I don't know if it's a mansion or some kind of... She walks in the bathroom just like she did in the past, Charlie. And he's like, nice bathroom. And once again, he's sitting on the toilet just like he was in the flashback. He says, I've always had money, but I've never seen the need to make a bathroom like this. It's like making a shrine to your pooping. Then she puts a gun to his head and says, damn you. And he says, you don't need to do that. And she says, so the armor was tracking. He says, of course. She's like, how? There was no signal. And he's like, I'm smarter than everybody. She's like, this is my... She's like, this compound is my favorite place on Earth. He's like, yeah, sure, it's gorgeous. And she says, now I'll have to kill you to keep it. And he's like, not really. And basically she realizes he still has the armor on, but, it has like that cloak or whatever on it, so it looks like he's not wearing it.
So, wait, he had like two armors?
Well, it looks like he's just sitting there in regular clothes, but like when she tries to put the gun to his head, you can see it's like tapping against there's like blue lines where you can see like the armor.
Yeah, but like, wasn't there an armor that he just get, or did he like get another set of armor?
Maybe he might have got another set. Well, that's what he even told the guys in the mandroid armor. He's like, I have other suits.
Okay, well there you go. So,
boy, I thought his money. I thought he didn't have as much money anymore. But he's pulling out like $1 billion suits left and right.
Yeah, well, he's not a trillionaire anymore. Now he's just a paltry billionaire. Like, it's
yeah. So he tells her to put the gun down, and she's like, put the gun down. She's like, you're wearing a tank. And he says, I could take that out of your hand right now and take you to S.H.I.E.L.D., so put the gun down. And she's like, we're going to do this here. He's like, right here. And then once again, flashback. I guess they had run away together. They're sailing like in New Zealand, I guess. Yeah, New Zealand. And basically they're having a conversation about, what they're gonna do, and basically he's telling her, my dad was wrong, that he thought you were just trying to seduce me, and she's like, only in the beginning. And he's like, in the beginning of what? She's like, I was to meet you and bring you into my family and get you to talk about your father, but that was before. And he's like, before what? She's like, before I fell for you, for real.
Aww.
And so then the last page is back to the present. He's like, tell me. And she's like, what do you want from me? She's like, you want me to say I'm sorry for something a stupid child did 1,000,000 years ago? And he's like, come on, we're all grown up now, we're adults. He's like, who is he? Where is he? She's like, I find out the man who's been raising me, torturing me for my entire life was my adopted father, and I have biological parents out there. He's like, I travel halfway around the world looking for my biological father, and I find, of all people on the planet, you. He's like, 20 long years later, I find you where my father should be. He's like, tell me who he is. Who is my biological father? He's like, come on, honeypot, tell me. To be continued.
It's MODOK! Mental organism designed only for kissing.
Maybe it's Nathaniel Richards. He was dropping kids all over the place.
Oh yeah, it was probably Nathaniel Richards. We know it was probably Nathaniel Richards because that means that him and Reed are brothers.
Maybe it's
But now here's an interesting question: would it really have been Nathaniel Richards, or did Franklin just really want an uncle?
Oh.
I'll rebuild it. I'll make him Daddy's brother. Franklin Richards, you put that universe back where you found it. Yes.
But it was good. I mean, I don't know. The flashback served a little bit more of a purpose, I thought, but I like the present stuff, but it's a thumbs up.
Here's what I'll say about it. It's like Old Man Logan. These don't sound like bad books. These sound like books I'd love to be reading. Same thing with Ant-Man. It's a book I'd love to be reading. But at the same time, it's like, of all the books I have to read, maybe if I was, no, because even when I was not like podcasting and I had to know what the main through line of the Marvel Universe was, I still wanted to know the main through line, so I would still be in that world of what is the main through line. But it's like it's a lot of good books out there, Oh, yeah. But it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't sound like a bad book. It sounds like a good book. But I just don't have enough resources to read it. Now, let's move on to what do you want to do first? Uncanny, Civil War, or Deadpool, Last Days of Magic?
Do Uncanny Avengers.
Uncanny Avengers, number 9. Number 9. Number 9. Number 9. Okay, so we open up with an illegal art auction at apparently an actual legitimate auction house. Or like Hydra, they just love branding. It's like it's an evil underground organization, but we're going to brand it. Something I'll never get over is that, when they go to the Winter Soldier compound and they have the Hydra logo around, or, or Simmons has the Hydra coffee cup. It's like, we're supposed to be a secret. Shh. It's like, no, because you got to have the logo, because that's how you build team loyalty. That and the softball game, man. The annual Shields Hydra softball games. Those are the best. So we go to the auction house, and down there is Remy LeBeau. You may know him better as Gambé, because you don't pronounce the T in French. And who should come visit but his chérie, Rogue. They have a whole conversation. Basically, she's like, "Were you at that place?" He's like, "No." And she says, "Dang it, I knew that was the Red Skull." Very annoying. It's like, you want to come join the Avengers with us? And he's like, yeah, not so much. He says, well, we're hunting the Red Skull. He says, well, tell you what, you find the Red Skull, give me a call. He says, you'll come running. He says, hey, we'll all come running. Basically, every mutant on the world will go there to kill the Red Skull. Happily. As if the Red Skull didn't have enough enemies, as it were. Red Skull doesn't think things through. Okay, he's like a helmet Zemo. Not the movie version, the comic book version. So anyway, Rogue runs off after she trips the alarm to give Remy a headache and have him have to run without his prize. There's a Soyuz space capsule that's coming in hot and out of control. Rogue goes to catch it, but then someone else catches it instead. And who is that someone else?
Hank Pym.
Who was that? Who's the hero? Who?
Hank Pym.
Michael Douglas. Yes. No. Michael Douglas. Young, handsome Michael Douglas. Yes. Hank Pym. Now with 50% more Ultron. Basically, he's saying, hey, look, me and Ultron are all buddies now, and we worked it out. We found great. And he says, great. And Rogue says, I'm glad to hear that, Hank. Let's go find Captain America and give him your good news. Says, he's clearing some domestic terrorists out of a wildlife reserve. There have been a lot of changes since you've begun. Steve Rogers was still an old man when he left Earth, right? And then we get to see some Rogers and Deadpool action. And you get the voiceover says, Rogue to Rogers, I'm inbound to your location. Says, no need, we're almost done here. Says, why should you have all the fun? Says, copy that, see you soon. And Rogers says, full squad assemble. And Deadpool gives a little emoji when he sees Hank. Hank's a little bit, how dare you question me? And then he's like, okay. Agrees to basically let everything be analyzed and gets the full Ultron head on and says, I'm starving. I haven't had a burger in months. Gives the whole story about what happened. It's possible. They say it's possible Pym redeemed his creation. Steve says anything's possible. Jericho is talking to Dr. Voodoo, says, and I want a plan for every possibility, and I need a few moments. And he gives a call. It's Janet Van Dyne. Cut to Hank Pym and Rogue at the old Avengers mansion, which is of course now a posh hotel. And he says, and he's like, where's my memorial? They go to his memorial and he blows it up. Very super villainy. He says, oh boy, that was stupid. He's like, yep, felt really good. And hey, who's our cameo? Says, wait, he says, you're only human, right? And who walks in?
Wait.
Who's playing the janitor?
Stan Lee.
Yes, it's always fun.
It's like a movie.
Yeah. Then he's like, sorry about the mess, but you won't be needing that memorial anymore. I'm alive. Send the bill to Deadpool. And Rogue says, see, Deadpool has his uses high. It's great to be home. Hank Pym is back. Yeah, this is going to end poorly. In fact, come to the next issue. Yeah, it's things ending poorly, it looks like. Okay, I'll give it a thumbs up. It was a fun book. What did you think?
Thumbs up. Cocky Hank Pym is never good.
Yeah, well, Hank Pym got a wee bit to the crazies. Yeah. Franklin, you put that universe back where you found it. So, you want to do Civil War 2 or Deadpool next?
You want to do Deadpool?
Sure. Do you want me to do Deadpool?
Sure, I did a lot of books, but this is my pick of the week.
Okay. This is actually my absolute hands down pick of the week. I read this and I was like, yeah, that's my pick of the week. And it's one of these books where you're just like, dang, that's some good writing. Even though, it's like this. I can see people saying, oh, it's so cliche, it's so telegraphed, it's so blah, blah, blah. But it's like, it was good. You have Michael and his girlfriend, Daphne. Michael is the rather weird-looking shaman that is one of Deadpool's former friends. They're talking, her dad's a very manly man, doesn't much cotton to the fact that his daughter's boyfriend is a vegetarian. Doesn't mind the fact that he's a friend with Deadpool, though, because he likes Deadpool. He's a man of action, and that's what her father liked. And speaking of action, and should show up Deadpool, basically grabbing Michael out of the mess, out of his meeting with his girlfriend's parents, and drives away without even really asking Michael, drives him down into the subterranean depths of the monster metropolis. And we see the Empirical attacking the monsters. Empirical, real jerks. Brother Voodoo shows up. We see the Wizard of the Monster Metropolis show up. He does one black magic spell and then quickly gets thwarted by the Empirical. Shikla must step back. Michael calls out to Ben Franklin, who does arrive, calls upon his knowledge of electromagnetism to do some battle. They've got Frankenstein in the mix. Monsters are dying left and right. Super science Superman, evil Superman, Lex Luthor, bad guy, we hate him. It feels that disposing of a bunch of monsters isn't worth his time. Shikla retreats from Deadpool with her people. Michael and Ben are battling the monsters with Brother Voodoo. Then all of a sudden, Michael disappears. He goes to a secret library, steals a book. There's a portrait of the Ancient One there, who basically speaks with and says, "I am but an echo. I simply am reminding you that a mage need not apologize for what a mage must do." Says, "All the time I've been rooting around down here, you've never spoken to me before. I need to take Togbin's journal." Says, "So shall it be." Says, "I'll make you proud, and I promise to return the book." And then we see the portrait of the Ancient One basically facepalm himself. It's like, oh, that kid's doomed. Which, Telegraph, by the way, just to give a quick shout out, just before Deadpool comes in to cause trouble, Daphne says, "We have some big news." And who should show up but and then Michael, of course, comes back, throws up on the Empirical. Ben Franklin is shooting lightning at people, and they bring this machine that will devour all magic. It's your basic magic eating machine. Michael says, Deadpool says, "Have you ever seen anything like this?" Dr. Voodoo says, "No, never." And then sees that Michael has the Journal of Togbin. Says, "How did you get the book?" He says, "Hey, I'm reading over here." Starts reading it, and Brother said, "I thought nobody had found a way to read his texts." He says, "Should I evacuate you guys out?" And you see basically magic runes appearing. He says, "I did it. I got it." He says, "Wait, no. Wait, why no? How do I push it on the bomb?" Says, "I can't see anything at all. What are you trying to push?" He says, "Oh, that's it. Don't push, pull. I understand now." So, and then he jumps into the machine and says, "The only thing I can, the spell is strongest at the center." He says, "Voodoo, help." And Voodoo says, "There's nothing I can do while the barrier is up. If the barrier falls, I would be dead in seconds." And you see basically Michael being torn apart by the spell and the magic eater. Says, Deadpool's like, please don't quote Wrath of Khan right now. He says, don't quote Wrath of Khan right now, buddy. I'll get you out of there. He says, I was going to say, I always tamper with magic. I don't understand until it's too late. But I don't regret my choices. And Deadpool says, you're as good as Doctor Strange. He says, I'm not. He would have found a way to live through this. Tell Daphne, give my love. And then he is dust. Magic eating machine is gone, but Chiclet's people are saved. Ben Franklin basically says, I need to go. I've been hanging out on this plane way too long, and this seems like the best time to leave. And Deadpool is left with Brother Voodoo in some really poignantly drawn dark scenes with rain, And you come to Daphne, trying to contact Michael via magic, and says, magic must really be messed up if I need to use the phone. Leaves him a voicemail. She says, I didn't tell them, by the way, hang on. She says, who is it? It's Wade Wilson. No. That you dropped him out of your life when you became rich and famous, and then today suddenly you need him, and what do? You killed him. How dare you? How dare you tell me I'll be compensated? He says, God has saved me. He says, I curse you, Deadpool. I curse you to lose the souls you love. He says, don't. He says, don't you hear me? He says, yeah, loud and clear, but you can keep your curses. I'm already damned. I mean, this was such a good book.
I honestly thought this was gonna be like a cheap excuse to sell another, Last Days of Magic book for $5, but that, like I said, it came to be my pick of the week.
Yeah, here's what I'll tell you: $5. Like, this was worth the $5. The other Last Days of Magic, I mean, that had Monaco. I'll give it that. Monaco is a redemptive force in all comic books in which he appears. But, no, this was worth it. And I think I actually even browsed over it. Daphne is pregnant. Daphne is going to have a baby, Michael's baby. Yep. And, Michael died saving the monsters of Monstrotropolis. So, I will say this much. Michael's baby has monsters who will love him forever because of his sacrifice. And for that, that will be a glorious thing. But, no, it's sad, man. I didn't even know Michael that well as a character, but I feel for this. This is how good the writing was in this book. It's like, I know of him just basically because I've picked up a few Deadpools here and there, and I know he's, the gag magician. And, it's the crux of heroism. It's that idea that people need to live. There's this, to go to the Wrath of Khan, there's this idea of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And that can be a phrase that is fascistic, or it can be a phrase that is heroic. It is fascistic when I am one of the many and you are one of the few. When I am the few and I say my needs are less than the needs of the many, and I voluntarily take that moment to say, I will sacrifice myself to save others. That is heroic, and that is the highest form of heroism. And too often that phrase is used in that fascistic way, in that way to say, we are the many and we don't need to worry about the few. But when you are the one who must stand up to protect others and saying that my needs come second to the needs of all these people who are right now about to die, and I'm going to protect them even if it means I'm going to lose my life. That is the crux of superheroism. That is the crux of comic books. That is what makes these things good. And, it never ceases to amaze me how Deadpool, for a gag book, can get so deep at times. And so, yeah, biggest thumbs up. Definitely the book of the week for me. Okay. Moving right along. Our last book, because I know you guys are tired because you've been listening to us for an hour and a half now. Civil War #2, number 0, which is a mouthful of a numbered title. As an interesting point, this book takes place before the books that we just read in the Road to Civil War, because this is prior to the events in both the Free Comic Book Day Civil War book and the last issue of Ultimates. And we open up with that great little magic hair shaving tonic, I'm guessing. Yeah, shaving tonic. Magic shave cream. And I tell you what, man, I want to get this stuff now because it's like the third. I got to go find out how the story ends. I want to see if Crusher Krell says, hey, it's not just for black guys shaving his head. I want to shave my head with it too. It's so soothing. Like the old fruit pie commercials, it's like, hey, we don't need to fight. I got fruit pies. So I definitely want to check out the magic cream shave thing because, I do shave myself. And hey, if it's good enough for Luke Cage and Crusher Krell, it might be good enough for me. Okay, moving right along to New York City. Jen Walters in full She-Hulk, which is always a little weird to me whenever they have her as the lawyer as She-Hulk and not Jen Walters, although I do understand why, because as a defense attorney, looking superheroic, looking like a person who saved New York probably is useful. But sometimes I always think it would be kind of cool when she is just being Jen Walters to defend people. They go back and forth as to whether or not she can actually change at will anymore, but it is what it is. Anyway, so she has this client by the name of Jonathan Powers, who basically he's saying that he was entrapped because he was talking shop with some other old criminals. He had done his time. He hadn't committed any crimes. He wasn't going to commit any crimes, but these guys got to him and started talking about old times. And one imagines he probably said at some point in that, it might be cool to go knock over the First National Bank of Latveria or what have you. And before we get the verdict, we cut to the White House Situation Room where one president, who could that be? We don't know. The current president of the Marvel Universe, and let's just say it's probably not the guy that's the president in the movies, is talking to Colonel James Rhodes about, how he'd like him to become his new Secretary of Defense because he wants a superhero to be a Secretary of Defense. And he says, and look, let's be honest, I want this because I think this would be the best first step for you to take my old job. Because, as he says, one of these days, your little buddy, and I love that he refers to Tony Stark as Rhodey's little buddy, which is, yeah, well, let's be honest here. One of these guys is the professional warrior. The other guy is the dilettante. One of these days, your little buddy is going to decide he wants to be president and is going to buy himself in. I would rather that the first president be someone like you, someone who is trustworthy. Meanwhile, at Ohio State University, all the cool girls are hanging out talking, and some dweeb named Ulysses shows up. He's like trying to talk at the girls, and they're like, yeah, whatever, Ulysses. And then what should come?
Terrigen Mist. The
Terrigen Mist Cloud. Amazing that it's like still so, coherent after all these years. It's like, I guess the Terrigen must be in sort of almost a suspension state where it doesn't really, it's like a gaseous suspension where the gas still clings to each other almost like a liquid, but it does not fully dissipate. So it's a very the pneumatic dynamics of Terrigen Mist are very fascinating because it does seem to almost ooze as if it was, like I said, a semi-solid, but it is clearly a vapor because it does rise. So it is fascinating. Its movements. Anyway, it comes, and of course, all the kids say, "Let's wait. Let's see if we're superhuman beings too." Two of the beings get exposed and become covered in the cocoons. One is clearly Michelle, who is one of the cool girls. The other person, who could that have been? Nobody knows. Someone that nobody cared about. Meanwhile, come back to the Triskelion, which is, of course, the home of the Ultimates, and the Ambassador Extraordinary of Earth, Captain Marvel. And who should visit her? Who visits her, Phil?
The surprisingly alive Doc Samson.
Yeah, he got better.
Mhm.
Weren't you dead? So I, that's who
Secret
did.
Wars,
I
I
did.
guess.
Yeah, I got better. I'm better now. Who was it who dug up Dr. Sampson a couple issues ago? Was that pre-Secret Wars?
No, wasn't it? It was Deadpool.
Oh yeah, it was Deadpool, and dug up Dr. Sampson to make sure he was still dead. No, I thought that was Hulk. Oh, was it?
I think they did it in the Hulk book like before Secret Wars, but yeah, I think since Secret Wars it was Deadpool.
Well, he got better. Or this is just an LMD. We don't know. Anything's possible. Anyway, and he's basically doing the whole good guy Dr. Sampson thing, not being the evil Dr. Sampson, basically giving some proper psychoanalysis here to Captain Marvel. The illusion of and he says, I think it's going to be our theme of Civil War, the illusion of control, elite you alive. It says, with all that we know, this is Marvel, with all that we have seen and experienced, I just wish there was that one thing that would protect us from all comers. He says, yes, but maybe we're it. Maybe, this is Dr. Simpson, maybe that's why we are the way we are and why we are who we are. So what if one day we're just not enough? And Dr. Sampson says, wisely, so far so good. Cut to S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. She-Hulk shows up. Apparently she lost the case for the Jester, which was the super villain name of the guy, who, was a bit of a jerk, but, it's not fair that he should be, put away just because he said something, and we find out that he died in prison because some other prisoners picked a fight, and the guard shot him. And Maria Hill says the other point of view, which was that, he was a repeat offender, not this time, says, but he would have done it again. They always do. Meanwhile, cut back to Ohio State University, where people are bursting out of their shells, literally, and we see that Ulysses doesn't look any different. But then Michelle comes out and she looks a hell of a lot different. All demonic-y and flamethrowery and wingy and taily. And then all of a sudden Ulysses sort of blacks out, sees the world devastated. To be continued in Civil War #2, #1. Thumbs up for it. It was a good book. Man, now I'm really mad if they're going to kill Rhodey when Rhodey was going to have political ambitions, because that ain't cool, man. Rhodey better pull through this. Better be an Age of Ultron teaser thing where it's like, was Rhodey the one who died? No. Maybe he just needs to, get some leg prosthetics to help him walk a bit, because, this is the Marvel freaking universe. He doesn't have to be, freaking Professor Xavier in the hover chair unless he wants to be. But yeah, no, it was a very good book. I liked it. I think, I probably would have liked it better if this had been like maybe the Free Comic Book Day, and then we'd got some of the stuff that we got on Free Comic Book Day in a later book. Or they just gave us like maybe a little of this. But honestly, if they had given us like She-Hulk and then Rhodey, and then Ulysses getting into the shell for Free Comic Book Day, I think that would have been enough. Would have been intriguing. No action, but very intriguing. But I guess they wanted to give us action in Free Comic Book Day. But anyway, thumbs up. Civil War #2, #0.
Oh yeah, thumbs up.
Okay. And that's all we did this week, Phil.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, we'll see if it's even more next week.
Yes, everyone's in for a surprise for a treat next week. We'll both be in the same room together.
Yes, we will. The first time, for one night only.
I was gonna say, are you bringing your books next week?
Oh yeah, I'll bring everything.
Okay, because I was gonna say, for once, I can be thumbing through your books. You can be thumbing through my books that you didn't read.
It's going to be exciting. Experience. So stay tuned for next week's two-parter, 4-hour, all new Marvel Roundup. And World's Finest Comics.
That's right. But until then, if you want to discuss any and all Marvel comics with us, you can email us marvelroundup@gmail.com. Facebook is All New Marvel Roundup. Twitter is @Marvel_Roundup, and our shared Instagram is World's Finest Roundup. And Charlie, where can people get a hold of you?
Well, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. Or, of course, tweet along with me as we tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Legends of Tomorrow, and look for the upcoming soon Podcast of Tomorrow podcast, or whatever we decide to name it, for next season's Legends of Tomorrow. And, of course, The Incredible Hulk, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on MeTV. Except, of course, I haven't been able to do that really well in a while because podcasts, everything, Civil War, whatnot. But do that. Follow me along at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality.
And if you want to talk to me about how we're turning Charlie Esser into a DC man as well as a Marvel man, you can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. Twitter is @nightwingpdp. Instagram, Periscope, it's all nightwingpdp. And always check out my website, philparrish.wordpress.com.
Yay!
Woo. All right. I'm sure there's nothing else, right?
Nothing else I read. Well, no, I did read Futurama, if you want to talk about that. Futurama number 79 from Bongo Comics.
Nah, that's all right. And I read Spawn, but we'll leave those to another time.
Still haven't read my
all right.
Grumpy Cat free comic book day comic yet, but I guess one of the kids did. It's on the table.
All right, everyone. Join us next week. Like I said, very special episode. We'll be together. But until then, go out and get
the bromance continues.
Go out and get your Marvel comics. Odds are Deadpool will probably be in one of them or all of them. Good night.
Good night.